Yeah, Nick's going to shut the door now because in case any noises come from outside.
Hello. It's Susie Walker here. I am with the wonderful Andrea McLean, award-winning author and TV presenter and author of a fantastic new book called Girl on Fire. I've read it. It's brilliant. I love it. Tell us a little bit about the book, first of all, Andrea.
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, thank you. And you were one of the first people in the whole wide world to read it because I sent you a sneaky copy before it even came out. So I just want to say how much I appreciate you and thank you for your support on this. If you're wondering why I'm looking down, literally my dog has just walked in the room and he's he could appear at any moment.
Well, same. So I've got a new rescue puppy, Andrea. That he's here he comes. Hang on. Okay.
Can you hold him up? Oh
yeah. So he's just
Teddy,
been a rescue. This is Bertie.
Hello, Bertie. Teddy, come. I'm going to let them introduce each other. Teddy, come. He might growl because he's not brilliant when he sees dogs, as in he wants to sort of say hello. Oop, you've spun around. There we go.
Oh!
Yeah. So there's Teddy.
What kind of dog is that?
He's a Cavapoo. He's a Cavapoo. So.
Oh my goodness. Hello. Oh my goodness.
Hello. And he's a rescue as well. We got him from Battersea.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's really, you know, but he's so needy, and we've only rescued him for 2 weeks, so he's a bit like, I need to be with you all the time. Look at you. He's like,
he is. That's why we called him Teddy, because he just looks like a bear. And he was a rescue dog as well. And I don't know. I think they come to you. In a weird way, we were not looking for a dog. We foster dogs from Battersea, so we're quite used to giving them back. But there was something about him, just couldn't do it. Couldn't give him back. So yeah,
I know the same. I wasn't planning to get another dog. And then all of a sudden, he came into my life to light up my life. But yeah,
they do, don't they?
I mean,
right, I'm gonna put you down.
We do all of this self-development, don't we, Andrea? And then it's like, if you want to be happy, get a dog. It's as simple as that.
Literally. Sometimes when I'm having a difficult day, and we all have difficult days, I just look at him, and literally it starts from here. And I'm a big believer in this as well. Sometimes when I'm meditating and I try and really focus on my chakras and sort of open everything up, I think about him. And sometimes I'm looking at him and you can literally feel yourself just getting warm and you feel so filled with love. And it's for a dog.
Honestly, it works every time. So filling yourself up with love, meditating. So tell us, let's start with the book. So you've got a amazing new book out.
I have.
Well,
grab it off the bookshelf here. There you go. There it is. This girl is on fire.
What inspired you to write it, darling? Tell us a bit more.
Well, the book came about. Initially I wrote the prologue, not even knowing what I was writing was going to end up being a prologue to a book. It came about because I had a nervous breakdown last year, and that's such a deeply personal, private, horrible experience, and it's not something that I ever thought that I would end up talking about. And obviously we can talk about that in a moment. But while I was sort of in the middle of all that, there was this person that we know within our sort of family group, and we were all having this conversation over the phone, and it was on speakerphone. And this person, they were moaning. They were just moaning and moaning and moaning about their life, and it was the same. It was bitching, moaning, generally being a real sourpuss over things in their life that we'd already given advice on a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, and they were still moaning about the same thing, but not doing anything about it. And I got so angry about this because I was in the middle of what I was going through, and I was really trying to take steps and improve my life. And I went upstairs. I thought, I can't listen to this anymore. And I always have a notebook, and I literally sat on my bedroom floor and I wrote what would then turn out to be the prologue for this book. And am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's okay. And so, well, you'll know this. I literally, the first words of the book are shit happens. You have to find a way to get over it. Your life is not going to be this perfectly smooth kind of experience. But
Yeah,
if you don't do anything about it, your life will never change. And
yeah,
that was what ended up being literally the first words that were ever going to appear in this book.
yeah,
And the reason for that was because once I journal all the time. I find
yeah,
journaling very therapeutic. It's a
yeah,
great way to sort of release and also work things out, because once you've written it down and you leave it for a few days and then you look back, you realize, oh, do you know what? I need to do this. And it's really useful. When I was going through all of this, I realized that all I've ever wanted to do is pay things forward. So I started thinking, look, I'm going through this horrible experience. I'd been journaling every day about the therapy I was having, the CBT that I was trying, the meditations that I was using, all these sort of healing things. And I thought, I just want to piece these all together and pay it forward, not just for people who've been through something that is incredibly traumatic and big in terms of life difficulties, but also for people who are going through small difficulties, that they're like paper cuts every day. They're just irritations that, like this woman, you're not dealing with. You're just moaning and going round and round in
yeah,
circles and wondering why things
yeah,
aren't changing. And so really the book is for anyone who is in between any of those, whether it is you've had a big experience that you haven't dealt with properly, like I hadn't, or whether it's just small things. And obviously when I started writing it, I didn't know that COVID was going to happen. My breakdown was last year. So clearly, COVID wasn't around in the way that wasn't around. But even that in itself, that could be your hugely traumatic experience. Your life has changed. We've experienced it. Obviously, we're business people. We're experiencing it in terms of, you know, my job finished and I'm freelance, so I was taken off air. All the other jobs that I had lined up disappeared overnight. So literally, my income gone like that, right? And there are so many people that are experiencing that. Clearly, there are people who are experiencing anxiety, overwhelm,
yeah,
um, grief, overcoming the loss of a loved one. There's so many things. And I think that unwittingly, the book is for anyone who is experiencing difficult times, whatever they may be, just to help you piece your thought processes back together. Because there's not one thing that will make you feel better,
no.
but the one thing you can do is start to take control yourself.
I mean, what you're saying is that kind of mindset, isn't it? It's that, I mean, the problem is when we get kind of overwhelmed by the emotion, and
Yes.
then we feel disempowered. We feel like we can't do anything. We can't change anything. And when you're feeling really lousy, when you're feeling really low and really down and really anxious, it can feel impossible, can't it, to kind of take an action. So where do we start? How can we very kindly and gently start to it feels like turning the boat around, doesn't it?
It does.
So where do we start with this? How can we do it kindly?
That's such a great analogy, because it is like a tanker, and a tanker, like one of these huge long boats. Apparently they take about 15 miles to turn a corner, something like that. And that's what
them.
Oh, okay.
So
Is it about 15 miles? Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to remember is, if you were driving a tanker, you can't think, well, it's going to take 15 miles. There's no point turning, because you'll just crash into something. You're going to have to make the decision to turn at some point. Yeah. And I think that's what we do. We think, well, I can't turn because it's so huge. And actually, if you keep that vision in your mind of a tanker keeping going, what are you going to do? You're going to crunch into something. That's not going to do you any good. So you might as well start taking steps. How does a tanker turn? Really, really incrementally slowly, so slowly that you can't even see it until eventually its course has changed. What I would say to that, and this is from experience and also through knowledge from much wiser people than myself, but also through personal experience, we're constantly told, look at the bigger picture. Don't look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture is so huge. And also, 90% of it probably doesn't concern you, in so much as there's nothing you can do about all of that. Look at the smaller picture. What is it within your immediate vicinity? And by immediate, it could just be within yourself, within your own brain, within your own heart, within your own home. What changes can you make in that way that will incrementally make your life a little bit better? I think, you touched on people feeling overwhelmed and anxious and powerless. And I know this from my own experience. That comes from feeling out of control, that everything is too big and too dark and too scary and too much to try and overcome. So what you have to do, and again, I know this from personal experience, is think, right, what can I control in myself? And the simplest thing that I would say to people, and it's so ridiculously simple, grab a piece of paper and a pen and write down 5 things that make you happy. You might think, well, that's utterly ridiculous. How is that going to help? I'm in a financial crisis. I'm in this. Don't think about that stuff. Just right now, think of 5 things that make you happy. Yeah. Nick gets really cross when this comes up in conversation, because when I did this myself, I was having CBT. I was literally crying. I looked like Alice Cooper, the scar down my face. And the therapist said to me, grab a piece of paper and a pen. I'm like, ugh. I didn't write him, which is terrible. He gets more cross than I still don't. He's here. He's sitting in the room. But at that time, the things I wrote down were walking a dog and feeling his joy. Because there is nothing more beautiful than when you take a dog for a walk, you get out in the fresh air. It's what I was doing this morning. That's why I literally came screeching in and just made in time. This glow is sweat. Walking and seeing their ears flapping. And there's something so simple about taking him or her out and feeling their joy. All they want is to get some fresh air. Sitting in sunshine. That was another thing on my list. Just that moment when you raise your face to the sun, and it doesn't matter whether it is autumn, winter, spring, whatever. It just that feeling of some sunshine on your face, that lifts your spirits. Making my garden look beautiful. Gardening is so therapeutic. Yes. People think that's gardening's old lady stuff. No, it's not. Gardening is getting your hands dirty and getting back into nature. And there's something so incredibly simplistic and powerful about planting something and nurturing it and taking care of it and watching it grow and trimming it back and looking at it and thinking, I did that, because you're not thinking of anything else at that moment other than gardening. Yeah. And gardening is very different to decorating. And I've always been really into interior design and all this sort of stuff. And the great thing about that is, you paint a wall and put a cushion. It doesn't change. It stays the same. The difference with gardening is if you don't look after it, doesn't matter how much you love that plant, it's going to die. It's going to, if you don't water it, it'll keel over. And actually, we're the same. You can't just paint us and put a cushion there and then that's it, you're all fixed. You need to keep tinkering away at it. And I think that's what we forget. We think, oh, I'm good now. I'm good. I read that book. I'm fine. So that would be my sort of first thing. Write down a list of things that make you happy. And then think, why am I not doing that? And just find ways to introduce that into your life. That's why this morning, like I say, crazy busy day yesterday, went for a walk this morning. I have 100 things I need to do today. And I put them to one side and went, no, I need to go for a walk. I need some fresh air. I'll do all them when I get home. And I'm really glad I did.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. There's always a million things to do. There's always a million things, but it's being able to, what you're talking about to me sounds just like, self-care practices that will really support and help you. So, I mean, you're feeling really overwhelmed. You're feeling, it might be that, the COVID piece or whatever it is, or you're worried that you're facing some really dark stuff in your life, so you can start taking the baby steps. But I know with the Girl on Fire, you also have a really big vision to empower 100 million women to love their lives. It's a fantastic vision. So we have alongside, we have the baby steps, like what can you do now to make yourself feel better, but how can you also be inspired by a vision that makes you kind of light yourself up, that you can go, okay, this is what gives me purpose and meaning. Psychology is such a big fan of this idea of purpose and meaning, as well as baby steps. So how do we connect with a vision for ourselves? How do we do that?
Say it out loud. It's so scary. So scary. I can remember when, you know, when I first launched the website, thisgirlsonfire.com, and we, you know, it was initially, it was a blog, and it was just me again putting out information to make women feel good. It's all I've ever wanted to do. Is when I was young, it was help friends, and then as I've got older, it's, you know, it's helping women, and also younger women and any age women. And then Nick and I were talking, because obviously my husband, he runs the site with me, and we thought, what's our goal? Why are we actually doing this? Let's be really bold. And I said, do you know what? My ultimate goal is I want to empower 100 million women around the world to feel great about themselves. And what my vision is one day, you know, what I hope to see, and sometimes I can see it, I can literally see it, is there will be a This Girl is on Fire on every continent. Because there are cultural differences that obviously one site can't accommodate. So one in Africa, one in Asia, one in Europe, one in South America, so that each This Girl is on Fire is speaking to women in a language that they'll understand. Because for me, it's so important that women learn from a really young age. And by the way, women, I also mean teens as well, sort of older teens, to silence that voice inside that says, don't do that because people are going to laugh at me. Oh, I better dim my light because boys don't like it if you're, you know, if you're too smart, or you're too loud and they think you're a show off. There's something that happens in puberty, and somehow women are told, do you know what, turn yourself down a little bit because nobody likes a show off. And actually, you're not showing off. You're just showing how bright and amazing you are. And I know what it feels like to feel powerless, small, to have your light dimmed, and to be left feeling so vulnerable. And I don't want any woman to feel like that. So for me, I want to help women not even get into that situation in the first place. And how to do that is to educate them. So going back to your original thing, to say it out loud felt, that's ridiculous. How can one woman, I'm just one woman, how can I do this crazy big thing? But we have a whiteboard in our office. I'm in our office right now at home. We wrote it down. And then I just started getting used to seeing it. Empowering 100 million women around the world. Yeah, all of a sudden it didn't seem so crazy, because I'm seeing it every single day. And then we made the step, we're going to put this on the website. I'm actually going to announce it to the universe rather than just, you know, in our office quietly. And I kind of did it like that. People are seeing it now, and people say, and they didn't. People went, that's amazing. That's a really great goal.
Yeah.
And suddenly, because I've said it out, you know, first of all, just wrote it down in my journal, then put it up on the board, then put it on the site. Suddenly it's become incorporated in my language. And so I now say it really matter-of-factly. Yeah, my goal is to empower 100 million women around the world and help them feel great about themselves.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem ridiculous. And Nick and I were laughing about it when we went for the walk today, because we can't help talking about work. We try not to, but ideas come and we end up talking about stuff. And we realized that when I wrote that statement, I hadn't even thought of the book yet. I didn't know that I would end up writing this book. I'm already getting excited thinking about my next book and how that's going to help, and how we're changing things on the site. So writing down crazy, huge, earth-shattering goals and then making them part of your sort of everyday life stops them feeling too big and scary. Because going back to the tanker thing, how do you get there? You don't just go from here, massive step. You take loads and loads and loads and loads of tiny steps, and each one moves you forward. And that's it. It's the forward momentum that's exciting. Each little thing is a tick.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're saying the things that I hear my readers say all the time, which is that kind of have the big vision and then take the baby steps. But what seems to scupper us is this kind of, you know, you've touched on there, the kind of imposter syndrome. Who am I to do this? And, you know, how do I how I'm never going to do that. And those thoughts that keep us small, those little doubts that eat away at our confidence. How do we turn that around? How do we work on our confidence? How do we work on imposter syndrome?
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's really hard, really hard. We all have it, and it doesn't go away. People think that, you know, that there's one of the chapters in my book is about the fear factor, and about overcoming that feeling of being scared. And that's where imposter syndrome comes from, is because we're really scared, and it's that voice on our shoulder. Who are you to think that you can do that? And it doesn't matter who that voice is, whether it's your own voice or some school bully that you had from years ago, or some colleague that you know doesn't like you, or some mum at the school gate who kind of looks at you funny. There's always that, you know, there's 100 things that you can do, and there's also nothing you can do, in that it will always be there. Accept that. You are always going to have that little voice that says, yeah, but what if? You just have to learn to push it away and silence it. I'm a great fan of Gabby Bernstein, and there's a great bit in one of her books where she talks about, I just say, I'm not going to think about that. I refuse to let you walk across my mind with your dirty shoes. That in itself is so powerful, because again, I relate really strongly to imagery, and this idea of somebody else's nasty thoughts leaving dirty footprints across my mind is really strong. So I think this is something that we have to find our own unique way of dealing with it, whether it is just literally saying out loud, I'm not thinking about that. I'm not listening to you. You're talking nonsense. I'm not listening to you. Or I'm going to do it anyway. I might not be any good at this. You're right. I might be useless, but I'm going to do it anyway. And actually, that's really powerful. And I think that, you know, all these horrible mean girl thoughts that we all have, because we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never talk to anyone else. You know, they're just mean girl thoughts. Don't believe them. But again, I talk about it in the book. Is this a real thing, or is this your brain just gossiping with you? And most of the time, it's your brain just gossiping. Your brain is a horrible gossip. So just shut them up.
I think the message is, though, is often it took me ages to realize that I thought it was just me that thought that. I didn't realize that everyone thought that. And then it was so liberating to understand we all have those thoughts. It's completely normal to have that. But then it's finding your own unique strategy, isn't it? To whether it's, you know, a phrase like the Gabby Bernstein, I'm not going to let that, you know, those footprints of somebody else's mean girl thoughts go over my thought. No, I'm not going to have it. You're going to let somebody else dictate how your life is. No way. Absolutely no way. So it's once you, I mean, so as you say, everyone will have their own methodology of overcoming that, but there is a way of overcoming it. You don't need to listen to the mean girl thoughts. You really don't. You know, why not? It's like having a friends, isn't it? You have like maybe a group of friends. If that group of friends were mean, horrible, toxic, you wouldn't have anything to do with them. So, I mean, you want to walk into a room of friends that have got your back, that believe in you, that are, you know, can have a sense of humor, that can just josh you a bit and inspire you and motivate you. That's what we want inside our heads, isn't it? Not the kind of we're so over. That's what your book is about, isn't it? That's what it's about. It is.
And I when I write any of my books, when I write anything, actually, whether it's articles or my books or whatever, I don't write them for thousands of people. I write them for one person. I write them for you. And when I'm writing, I literally imagine I write as I speak. It flows out of me as if I'm having a conversation. And I imagine I'm literally speaking to you as I would, as if we're sitting down having a conversation. And how I would speak to you is, I'm funny, I'm sweary, I take the mickey out myself, I'll take the mickey out of you, but I'll also say, that's not really working though, is it? So why are you doing that? And I'll ask you questions, and I'll really nicely pull you up on a few things and say, well, why do you think you're doing that? And this is what the book is like. You know, Nick and I, again, we were talking about this morning. You know, sometimes where you see a chef on the telly and then they go, and I've got this cookbook and it'll teach you how to do amazing Italian. And you go, I love Italian. Great. So you buy the book and you go, that looks brilliant. And you put it on your bookshelf and you never open it. And you go, I wish I could cook Italian. You've literally got an instruction manual and you don't use it. That's what, when it comes to this book, buying it, going, that looks nice, and putting it down is not going to change your life. Reading it and going, yeah, okay, and putting it down is not going to change your life. It's the same as having a conversation with somebody and going, yes, really good advice, and not doing anything is not going to change your life. You have to do it. It's called self-help for a reason. You have to do it yourself. But it doesn't mean you have to do it kind of po-faced and like instructions. This is there's a lot of storytelling in my book, because I think that the way we remember things is through stories. That's why people for millions and millions of years have told stories around campfires and down through the generations, because you remember a moral, a tale. And for me, the reason that I've been so open about my stories is because that's what you would do in a conversation. And you might be walking along and think, God, yeah, Andrea McLean went through this time. What did she do? She did X, Y, Z. Right, I'm going to try and do that.
Yeah. And again, it's that kind of me too. I've
Me
struggled.
too.
Yeah, and there is a way out. I mean, what we say always at Psychologies is the darkness exists. Do you know what I mean? It's not, people, talk about positive psychology and happiness, but of course, we all feel down, we all feel low, but you don't have to stay there. There are ways to, not straight away, it's a journey, but you don't have to stay there. There is a way out. There are ways to transform. There are ways. I mean, some of our readers have gone through the most horrific, have struggled with the most terrible losses that you think, how would you ever survive that? But they've found ways, and there's not just one way, there's millions of ways to do that. And that's what the book is full of. It's full of different new ways to find, and if it resonates with you, then find a way. The one thing with the last question before you go is that procrastination. So you're right, we've got your book and it's full of great, amazing sort of stories and great techniques and tips and ways out, but then we procrastinate. I'm not going to. I'll just put it there. I'll look at that tomorrow. So, how do we overcome procrastination? How do we in the moment?
Yeah, and then can I just say as well, procrastination is totally normal. We all do it. I love a procrastinate. we all do it. So first things first, don't beat yourself up if you procrastinate, because we all do it. First thing, do not beat yourself up anyway, because we cannot exist on a kind of top level, working all the time, being amazing, knocking it out the park every single day. That is not how life is. And visualize, again, I'm a very visual person. How do you know you're alive? Heartbeat. So you're going to have times when you're up and things are great and you're full of energy, and you're going to have times when you're down and you don't have any energy and things are terrible and not going your own way. So accept that there are some days where you might call it procrastination, I might call it just resting and recouping, and you are going to come to it when you're at a point where you're feeling energized and ready to be proactive. So, that's sort of the first thing. I think ask yourself a couple of questions. How much do I really want to change? How much is it costing me not to do anything? Because people think not doing anything isn't making a decision. That you tend to think, well, if I'm just going to let things slide, then I'm not taking any action, and that's me procrastinating. Not doing something is still a decision, and that was a shock to me when I realized. I thought, well, no, it's not. I haven't done anything, so how can I possibly? Actually, it's not, because if you're not doing anything for a sustained period of time, you're making a decision to stay exactly where you are. So you need to ask yourself, what is it costing you to stay exactly where you are? If your health is suffering, whether that's mentally or physically because of your inaction, it's costing you something. Sometimes we don't make a decision, or we procrastinate because we think making a decision to change is so scary. Other people aren't going to like it. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and I'm already so uncomfortable. I can't bear the thought of being even more uncomfortable. Ask yourself how much it's costing you to stay where you are, because actually doing something that might for a very short period of time feel scary, uncomfortable, whatever, that in itself could lead you to feeling so much better, so much better. So although there's comfort in your discomfort, because we all get comfortable in our discomfort, we kind of know where we are. You know, there's even the saying, better the devil you know.
Yeah.
But actually, no, a moment of discomfort could lead you to feeling so much better. And remember what it's costing you to do nothing. It is taking a toll. You think it's not, but it is. It's taking a toll on you mentally and physically, and in romantically. It could be affecting your relationships in so many other ways. So I think bear that in mind.
I think it's that piece around the difference between the kind of comfort zone and the stretch zone, isn't it? And then there's the kind of complete freak yourself out zone. So it's that, you know, it's trying to not freak yourself out, because often people make a leap and it's too much.
It's too big. Too big.
Flat on your face and you think, oh, I can't do this. So I love your kind of approach of baby steps, and to turn the tanker around, as you said earlier, is just start making some decisions. Maybe get in touch with the bigger vision. What do you want, the big vision for your life? And then start today, right now. What are the steps that you can make to start changing the direction of where you really want to go?
People talk all the time about having huge goals, and I have huge goals, but actually you need to set your goals. They're your someday goals. You need to have your today goals, and then your tomorrow goals, and your next week goals. And if we just constantly aim for the one day goals, you will fall flat on your face. And then you think, oh, well, clearly that's not meant to be. But you've set the bar too high for yourself. I heard a brilliant bit of advice recently. I'm always open to advice. I listen to podcasts, I read books. I'm like a sponge. And basically it was saying, you need to set your motivational goals for when you're at your lowest. And I was like, no, surely you set them when you're at your highest.
Good.
No, you set it when you're low. What will I achieve when I'm feeling completely unmotivated, when I'm not energized, when I'm lying in bed? What is the best thing that I can achieve then? That's your goal. And it makes total sense. If you think about, like, in January, actually I don't do it in January because my New Year is in September, not January. My New Year is like the new school year with my new school bag and everything. I never do it in January. And you think, right, this year I'm going to do this. If you start off all motivated, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week. I'm only going to live on juice and water and, never eat another Jaffa cake. But as soon as you have a Jaffa cake and a glass of wine, you think, well, that's it, I've failed. You need to set it, what will I achieve when I'm at my lowest? And then when you do that one little thing, you feel so much better and you don't feel like a failure. And the weird thing is, you will always do more. Whereas if you set it too high and you do less, you feel like you failed. If you set it low, and you will always do more. Yeah. So that's a top tip.
Yeah, but it's a great tip, and it's setting yourself up to succeed, isn't it? And actually, that's really lovely. I've not been very well the last couple of days, some horrible lurgy, and all I did was sort of lie in. I'm living in a canal boat, lie in my cabin, listening to visualizations, and it was lovely. I feel like I've just had a massive reset, because all I've done is been listening to visualizations for back to back for 2 days.
Wonderful.
It was that thing of, oh, I'd forgotten the impact that can have on you, of resetting, of, reprogramming you. And I was like, okay, this is great. And, so I was thinking, when I was poorly and feeling so ill and I couldn't do anything, even then you can make yourself feel better, ways to support yourself in really
totally. There's always something that you can do, always. And sometimes you do need to just switch everything off, switch your phone off. Top tip, switch your phone off. Do not go to bed with your phone. Leave your phone downstairs.
Yeah, it's so true. It's true. Andrea, your book is full of amazing inspirational advice and your journey.
Thank you.
And it's thank you so much for joining me today. I know we've got some, I'm not sure that we're allowed to say, but we've got some exciting news coming up with Andrea in 2021, but maybe we're going to keep that a secret. But thank you so much for joining me today. Lots of love, Andrea. Keep on. It's inspiring people. You've inspired another 10,000 people, 20,000 people today. So you're 100 million. But keep going and keep inspiring us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And you're such a huge champion of mine, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank
Lots
you.
of love, my dear. Speak to you
All
soon.
right.
Bye.
Bye.